Hey guys, PlonkerBoy900 here and welcome back to the third and final episode of this 3-part monotype series. Last time we saw how the grass type fared against Pokémon ALTERED, so today is the turn of the water types. Today we find out, can you beat Pokémon ALTERED using only water type Pokémon? The rules for this are almost identical to the first two. I can only use water type Pokemon in battle. I'm allowed to catch other Pokemon for HM should I need them, but every single Pokemon I use in battle must be a water type. No items are allowed in battle apart from Pokeballs to catch Pokemon, but held items are allowed. That's pretty much all the rules covered, to be honest. Before we get started, I just want to mention one more time that we're trying to hit 20,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I'm recording this video well in advance, so I don't actually know how close we are at this point, but with just a few weeks left until the end of the year, let's see if we can make it happen. Also, shout out goes to these people who found the dabbing Delibird in the last video. As always, he's in this one too, so if you see him, just comment down below the timestamp and you might get featured in the next video. With all that said and done, let's get this final monotype run underway. I start the game and pick the female character and call her Aqua. Quite a fitting name this one, but comment down below if you get the reference. As always, I name our rival Mr. I have 100k subs more than you, and the run begins. I pick Seamander as our starter, as it is the water type starter of this game. We face up against Zwigger, but we actually lose. I don't want to talk about it, but we get our revenge in the second fight as we beat him with ease. The first gym leader Brock was quite easy as well, as again he has rock types, so we basically just sweep most of his team. Crush Type goes down in one water gun, as does Carbolt, and even though Moss Eater is a grass type, we have the move Metal Claw, which is super effective, so it too goes down in one hit. His final Pokemon Ice-Coon is 4 times weak to Steel, so it just goes down in one hit, and we beat Brock in the easiest gym fight in history. Upon beating Brock, we also get Seamander to level 16 where it evolves into Seamelian, and we make our way through Mount Moon. On the way I picked the Helix fossil, ask what I had for breakfast this morning. Comments are good for the YouTube algorithm. On the route just left of Cerulean City, I can actually catch some more team members, with the first being Buckern, which is a water steel type Sunkern. This is a pretty interesting type combination, so I'm quite happy to have this on the team, even though it is one of the weakest Pokemon in the game. I also catch a Fomal, which not only is a normal water type, but it has the ability Drizzle. This is going to be absolutely amazing for my water type team in the future, as our water type moves are going to be boosted 50%. This is definitely a good Pokemon to have on the team. Before taking on Misty, I decide to fight Zwiggo first, and this was a pretty easy fight. Aegon is up first, so I start with Fomal to set up the rain, and after taking a weak quick attack, we do some decent damage with a Bubble Beam. We take a second quick attack and then hit back with one more Bubble Beam, which leaves it on a sliver of health, and one more would have taken it out, but he actually swaps out into Fertile. I decide to get out of there and swap into Seamelian, who takes a Razor Leaf like a champ. I have the move Dragon Rage, which is absolutely overpowered for this point of the game, so I just take out the Fertile from there, and send in Fomal once again for Aegon. He doesn't go for quick attack this turn, so I can just take it out with a Bubble Beam, and Prakuna is up next. It goes down just as quickly though in one Bubble Beam, and we're down to his final Pokemon Stalagmite. I send in Buckern and go for the Water Pulse as he hits a really weak tackle. A couple more Water Pulses take it out no problem and we hardly take any damage in the process, and just like that we beat Zwiggo once again. Misty's up next and wasn't quite as easy as in the grass type run, but it still wasn't too bad. Fomal's up first, so I lead off with Seamelian, and go straight for a Dragon Rage, which does great damage. She deals a decent amount in return with a takedown, and after she heals up with a Super Potion, we can just take it out with 2 more hits. Goldtide is up next and goes down in 2 Aqua Jets as well, and next up is Tartler. Dragon Rage is our strongest move against this thing, so I just go for it, and it brings it down to low health, as we just survive a takedown. Once again she heals up, but I can hit one more Dragon Rage, but unfortunately she has the Aqua Jet, so we go down before we can take it out, so I just send in Fomal. We survive a takedown with ease and just take it out with a tackle, and we're down to her final Pokemon Syrinx. I send in Buckern as Steel types resist Fairy types, and go for the Sludge. She decides to go for Water Pulse for some reason, but we have the Water Absorb ability, so it does absolutely nothing, and Sludge does a good amount of damage in return thanks to a crit. She just starts going for weak moves like Draining Kiss and Icy Wind, so a couple more Sludges take it out, and we earn ourselves the second badge. We arrive in Vermilion City where I do some fishing, and I catch myself a new team member, Leviuto. This thing's pure water at the moment, but when it evolves into Leviatops it becomes part dragon, so I definitely want this on the team. I catch it and train it up to level 20 where it evolves into Leviatops, and this thing's stats are pretty damn good for this part of the game. We defeat Zwigger with no problems, and take on the third gym leader, Lieutenant Surge. Elix is out first, so I start with Leviatops, and we actually one-hit KO with a super effective dig. Linode's up next, so I swap into Fomal, as we get paralyzed by a Thunder Wave. I am able to hit back with a Body Slam though, and we actually get a critical hit as well for a one-hit KO. And next up is Blitzeus. I send in C-Melian and go for the priority Aqua Jet, as this thing is part fire, so it's weak to it. Thanks to the boost from the rain, it's actually enough for a one-hit KO as well, and Fearolt is up next. I just go for another Aqua Jet, which does decent damage, as he hits back with a Shockwave for over half. I decide to go for Water Pulse this turn, which has more base power, and from there it is enough to take it out, and we're down to his final Pokemon already, Moroth. I just stay in and go for a Dragon Rage for some big damage, as we get taken out by a Needlearm. I send in Leviatops next and go for the Brick Break, which isn't quite enough to take it out from there, but he just goes for Charge instead of attacking, and heals up with a Super Potion the next turn. One more Brick Break brings it down to KO range, and we're actually faster, so I go for one more, but he just hangs on with a sliver of health somehow, but he just goes for the Volt Tackle. This does recoil damage, so he just knocks himself out from there, winning us the third badge. That wasn't quite as difficult as I was expecting it to be. We arrive in Celadon City, where I decide to buy a Water Stone and give it to Buckern to evolve it. Buckhead is a big upgrade stat-wise, so I'm really happy, but that's not the only new Pokemon we evolve. We also get Foamon up to level 33, where it evolves into Geyserupt. I actually really like this design, by the way. With our newly evolved team, I take on the 4th gym leader Erica, who uses grass types, another type we're weak to. She starts off with Phernomoth, so I lead with Geyserupt, and she actually starts setting up the Tail Glow, which could be a real issue. Thankfully though, we get a paralysis with the Body Slam, which means we're faster the next turn, so we can just take it out with one more. Latisai is up next, so I go for another Body Slam, and we actually get another paralysis. She just goes for growth instead of attacking, so we can take it out with one more, and Chorist is up next. I go for a third Body Slam, but Chorist is really bulky, so it doesn't do that much, and she hits back with a Seed Bomb for big damage. I didn't want her to heal, so I went for Bubble Beam this turn in the hopes it wouldn't do as much, but it actually does a very similar amount. She takes us out with one more Seed Bomb, so I send in Bucketta. Of course she heals up, but I hit a Sludge for huge damage, and we're faster, so one more takes it out. Marshwine is up next and outspeeds us, hitting a Giga Drain for decent damage as I hit back with another Sludge. It does well over half, and somehow we outspeed the next turn, so we take it out with one more, and we're down to her final Pokemon, Royal Lotus. This thing is Grass Fairy, so it's 4 times weak to poison, so after she just goes for Yawn, we hit a Sludge, which does huge damage. Instead of attacking, she just decides to go for a second Yawn, I don't really know why, so we can just hit one more Sludge and finish it off, winning us the 4th badge. We defeat Giovanni on our arrival once again, but both of these fights were super easy, so I'm just going to skip over these. And on our way to Fuchsia City, C-Melian evolves into Sealazard. I also catch some new team members. I catch a Licorice, which is a water rock type Lickitung, and a Yarble, which is a water fighting Snubbull. I train up both these Pokemon a little bit, and in the process we evolve Yarble into a Swashbull, and now we can take on the 5th gym leader Koga. Historically this one's been a difficult fight, but it wasn't too bad this time. As always he leads off with Mediclops and Noxiora, so I start with Geyserupt and Bucketta. My plan here is just to spam Surf and Water Spout as they both hit both targets, so that's what I do. Surf brings both Pokemon down to about half of their health, and then Bucketta goes for a Water Spout which finishes off the Mediclops, but unfortunately misses Noxiora. Glimpale comes out next and hits an X-Scissor on Bucketta, but it doesn't really do that much, as Noxiora goes for an Air Cutter which gets a critical hit on Geyserupt. We're able to hit another Surf though, which does good damage to Glimpale, and finally takes out the Noxiora. Koga sends out Nefario next, as Bucketta goes for another Water Spout. It takes out the Glimpale from there and does about half to Nefario as well, as next up is Taintuck. Unfortunately Nefario does finish off Geyserupt with a Poison Jab though, so I send in Leviatops, who gets immediately hit by a Poison Tail and almost taken out from full health. Bucketta hits a Flash Bomb, which is a Steel type move, and we even get a critical hit which takes out the Nefario. Koga's final new Pokemon is Playgron, and this thing is part Dragon, so I go for a Dragon Claw with Leviatops, and we actually take it out with another critical hit. Now we've just got to deal with this Taintuck, but it has Water Absorb, so we can't use water moves on it, as he goes for an Acid Armor. I'm able to hit a Flash Bomb which lowers his accuracy, but he does take out Leviatops with a Shadow Sneak the next turn, so I send in Sealazard. We do end up missing a Flash Bomb though as we hit a Dragon Tail for some small damage, but he also misses the Poison Tail. One more Dragon Tail brings it down to about half of its health, and then I hit another Flash Bomb and we get another critical hit. I'm pretty sure that's 3 in one battle. Regardless, it's enough to take it out, and we win the 5th gym badge. There's another fight with Zwigger here, and his team's got kinda tough this time. Stalacton is up next, so I start with Licorice, as he goes for a Sonic Boom. I'm not scared though, as that always does 20 damage, and I hit back with a super effective strength for about 3/4 of its health. he just goes for a weak Water Pulse the next turn so we can take the hit no problem, and take it out with one more strength. Gyarados is up next, so I swap into Swashbull, and we just take it out with a single Sword Strike, which is super effective. Talamence is up next, so I swap back into Licoral, as he goes for Feather Dance. This lowers our attack, so strength really doesn't do that much, so I decide to go for Surf this time, which doesn't do that much more, and then he actually switches out into Grass Toys. Surf hardly does any damage, so I know I need to get out of there, so I switch in Leviatops, who takes a C-Bomb like a champ, and take the opportunity to set up a Dragon Dance. We do unfortunately get put to sleep though with the Sleep Powder, but we are able to wake up before we go down, and hit one boosted Dragon Claw for some great damage. We do unfortunately go down the next turn though to one more C-Bomb, so I send in Sealazar to go for the Liquidation as I was pretty sure this would be enough to KO, but he actually survives on the tiniest sliver of health, and does some good damage with the C-Bomb. I'm able to finish it off the next turn though, and Chernobyl is up next. This thing's Fire type so it's weak to water and just goes down in one Liquidation, and now we've just got to deal with this Talamence. I switch back into Licoral and go for another Strength, and our attack's not lowered this time so it goes down from there, and we beat Zwigger once again. By this point you've seen this fight 3 times, so I'm just going to skip over this next Giovanni fight. All you need to know is we wiped the floor with him. Before facing the 6th gym, Licoral actually evolves into Reefer Coral, which is a definite upgrade and means we now have a fully evolved team as well. With it I take on the 6th gym leader Sabrina, who wasn't too much of a problem to be honest. Cloystar's up first so I lead with Geyserupt, and go for the Rain Boosted Surf for an easy one-hit KO. Sparkori's up next but Sealazard actually outspeeds, and we can take it out with a single Liquidation. Houndourami comes out next but can't survive a single Night Slash, and next up is Zenchamp. She does set up a bulk up which means that our Liquidation isn't enough for a one-hit KO, but it still does great damage, and we can outspeed and take it out the next turn with one more, and next up is Solnova. It too goes down in a single Liquidation, and we're already down to our final Pokemon Parakino. I go for the priority super effective Aqua Jet for an easy one-shot, and we basically just swept Sabrina. Speaking of sweeps, Blaine is up next. He has Fire types and even his Sun team gets ruined by my Rain, so I'm not really sure what to tell you other than we won. Simple as that really. The 8th gym leader is Giovanni, and he has Ground types, another good matchup for our Water types. He has the Sandstream but we have Drizzle, so we can get rid of the Sand. I start with Geyserupt and Sealazard, and one-hit KO the Medearth with a single Liquidation. Kadaroa comes out next, as Kragla actually sets up another Sandstorm. Geyserupt then hits a Surf which does huge damage to both Pokemon, even taking out the Kragla from full health. Sevum comes out next so I switch out Geyserupt, and go into Leviatops. Kadaroa gets taken out by one more Liquidation, and next up is Excali. I then hit a Liquidation on the Sevum which is actually enough for a one-hit KO as well, and his final new Pokemon Drilltrio comes out. Excali tries to go for the
cheese
strats by going for Fissure, but thankfully it misses. This means that Sealazar can just hit another Liquidation to bring it down to a sliver of health. And yes, he does heal it up the next turn, as I hit another Liquidation on Drilltrio, which brings it down to red health. One more Liquidation brings Excali back down to red again, but again he heals it with the Hyper Potion, and then heals up Drilltrio as well. I just go for an Aqua Jet this turn so he won't heal up, and hit one more Liquidation on the Drilltrio to bring it back down to red health. I then just go for an Aqua Jet to finish it off, as Excali goes for Fissure again, and he actually hits this turn. This takes out the Sealazard of course, so I send in Swashbull. Leviatops can just hit a Liquidation though to finish it off, and just like that we've earned ourselves the 8th and final gym badge. I'm going to put this out there, Water types are overpowered. As always, before we can face the Elite Four, there's a fight with Zwigger here, who starts off with the Talamence. I lead off with Reefer Coral, as he goes for a weak return, and I hit back with the Strength. It does about half as he hits another weak return, and we can bring it all the way down to a sliver with one more, but instead of healing or something, he just goes for another return, so I finish it off with a knockoff. Grasstoise is up next, so I swap into Geyserupt, and go for the super effective Blizzard. We just about survive a stab Seed Bomb, and in return, Blizzard does some good damage too. We get taken out by a Dark Pulse the next turn though, so I send in Leviatops, and I was hoping a Dragon Claw would be enough, but he actually just hangs on. His C-Bomb does a real number on us as well, but we can survive and take it out with one more, and Stalacola is up next. This thing's an Ice type so it's weak to fighting, so I send in Swashbull and go for a Sword Strike, and we get an unnecessary crit for the one-shot. Sense Leash is up next so I swap back into Leviatops, and go for the super effective Dragon Claw. It almost takes it out in one hit but not quite as he just goes for a Future Sight, and he heals up with a Max Potion the next turn. A couple more Dragon Claws take it out no problem though, and next up is Bristol. I send in Sealazard who gets hit by the Future Sight, but it doesn't do that much, and we could just outspeed and take it out with a single liquidation. Zwiggo's final Pokemon is Chernobyl, but it's a fire type, so even though we get burned by a Scald, we can just take it out with a single Surf and beat Zwiggo once again. We make our way through Victory Road and arrive at the Pokemon League, so let's look at our final team. Overall, I think this has got to be the best team we've had so far. There's just some really good options available to you for water types in this game. This is probably my favourite overall team as well, so let's find out how it'll do against the Elite Four. First up is Ice type user Lorelei, and as always this is a double battle. She starts off with Torchill and Erupt Ice, so I start with Geyserupt and Swashbull. Swashbull hits a liquidation on the Torchill, which does great damage, and then Geyserupt can just follow up with the Surf, which takes it out. It also almost takes out the Erupt Ice from full health as well, but he survives on the tiniest amount of health, and Freezorb is up next. Erupt Ice does go for Hail to get rid of our Rain, which could be an issue, and then fully heals with a full restore, as Swashbull hits a Sword Strike on Freezorb. It's enough for a one-shot, and Blizzmaiden is up next. Geyserupt hits a Surf which does decent damage to both Pokemon, but unfortunately Swashbull goes down to a Moonblast, so I send in Sealazard. Geyserupt hits another Surf to do good damage to Blizzmaiden and finish off the Erupt Ice, and Cool Catty's up next. It goes for Protect so Sealazard doesn't do anything, but thankfully Blizzmaiden misses a Focus Blast, which means that Geyserupt can finish it off with a Surf. Her final new Pokemon Golacia comes out now, and for some reason she uses the next special, as Cool Catty goes for another Protect. This means that Sealazard can't do anything once again, as I go for a Body Slam but it really doesn't do that much damage. I'm able to deal some decent damage before Geyserupt goes down, so I send in Leviatops and go for a Brick Break, which almost takes out the Golacia, as Cool Catty goes for an Icicle Crash. We just survived the hit though, and finish off the Golacia with one more liquidation. Now it's just 2-on-1 with this Cool Catty, but it's 4 times weak to Brick Break, so it goes down easily and we win. Bruno's up next and he starts off with a Swashbull, so I decide to lead off with my own. His has Intimidate but mine has Hyper Cutter so it doesn't work, and even though I'm a lower level, I can actually outspeed and take it out with a single Leaf Blade thanks to a critical hit. Boxer King is up next so I swap into Sealazard, and I actually misclick here and go for the Aqua Jet, but it still does okay damage. He hits back with a massive Wood Hammer but we somehow survive the hit, so now I can go for the Liquidation which I was meant to do last turn, which from that range is just enough to take it out. Furarm is up next, so I go for another Liquidation, which brings it down to red health, as he takes us out with a Dynamic Punch. I send in Leviatops and I know this thing's going to fully heal, so I take the opportunity to set up a Dragon Dance, and then go for a Liquidation the next turn. It doesn't quite do enough to finish it off though, and we get hit by another Dynamic Punch and Confused. I'm able to hit through Confusion though and finish it off with one more hit, and Carnival is up next. I break through Confusion once again to take it out with a single Brick Break, and Banneteer is up next. Believe it or not, this thing is part Fairy, so I go for Liquidation but we unfortunately hit ourselves in Confusion, as he uses an X accuracy. I am able to snap out of Confusion the next turn though, and we hit a Liquidation for huge damage, but he just takes us out with a Dazzling Gleam, so I send in Geyserupt. He does fully heal with a full restore, but much to my surprise, one Surf is actually all we need to get the KO. Bruno's final Pokemon is Senseion, so I swap back into Swashbull. He does have the super effective extra sensory, but it doesn't even do half, and in return, Liquidation brings it down to red health. He does heal up with a max potion the next turn, so one more Liquidation brings it down to red once again, and for some reason he just decides to go for Focus Punch, which means I can just clean up with one more. Senseion goes down and we've beaten 2 of the Elite Four already. Next up is Agatha, who uses Ghost types. She starts off with a Zotum, so I lead with Geyserupt, and she just goes for Reflect, as I hit a super effective Surf. It's enough for a one-hit KO, and Pellistorm is up next. I swap in Sealazard and hit a super effective Night Slash, but this thing must be really defensive as it doesn't do that much damage at all, and we get paralyzed. We then get confused by a Confuse Ray, and unfortunately we hit ourselves in Confusion as well. We then get hit by a massive Hurricane but we take the hit, and we're able to hit one more Night Slash. It brings it down to healing range, so of course she uses a full restore the next turn, as I go for one more Night Slash but we get fully paralyzed. The Reflect wears off now though, as we get taken out by a Hurricane, so I send in Swashbull. We survive another Hurricane just about, and hit back with a Liquidation which is enough to take it out from there. Nobodinja's up next, so I swap into Geyserupt, as it goes for a Cosmic Power. Because of this, Surf really doesn't do that much, and she actually switches out the next turn into Claypaw. This thing is also a water type, so Surf really doesn't do that much, so I go for the Earthquake the next turn, as we just survive a Focus Blast. Earthquake actually ends up doing less than Surf somehow though, so I go for one more Surf, but unfortunately we just get taken out by a Scald, so I send in Reefer Coral. Thankfully she misses the Focus Blast, which means I can go for a super effective knockoff, which brings it down to red health. She does fully heal it and we're actually able to bring it all the way down to red health once again, but we do eventually go down to a few more Scalds, so I send in Leviatops, who cleans up with a Dragon Claw. Nobodinja comes back out now, so I go into Pokémon and go for the Surf, which does decent damage. His Moonblasts aren't very effective, so they really don't do much damage to us at all, and from there we can just take it out with another Surf. Hypnoplasm's up next and puts us to sleep, and almost takes us out with a Terror Wave, but we wake up relatively quickly, and we're able to hit one more Surf. We do go down the next turn though, so I send in Leviatops and go for a Dragon Dance, as she thankfully misses the Hypnosis. From this range, a +1 Liquidation is enough to take it out, and we're down to our final Pokemon, Snorcest. I go for one more Liquidation, which brings it down to red health, as she just hits a weak Leech Life, which I think takes it out of healing range as well, so we can just go for one more Liquidation to take it out, and win the third match of the Elite Four. The final member of the Elite Four is Lance, and again this is a double battle. They lead off with Drakeperio and Flarados, as I start with Buckhetter and Geyserupt. My plan here is to just spam Blizzard, as both these Pokemon know it. Flarados does hit an Overheat though for decent damage, and then Geyserupt hits a Blizzard, and we get the Freeze too. It also does decent damage to Flarados, but Drakeperio actually just defrosts straight away, and goes for Spikes. Buckhetter then hits another Blizzard, which takes out Drakeperio, but unfortunately misses Flarados. Wyvaldo comes out next as Flarados goes for an Outrage, which almost takes out Geyserupt, but we just hang on, and hit back with another Blizzard. It's 4 times super effective on Wyvaldo, so it's an easy one-shot, and it brings Flarados down to red health as well. Thunderius comes out next as Buckhetter goes for another Blizzard, and we get yet another Freeze. That's 3 in one battle. It's also enough to finish off the Flarados, and Forestar is up next. Unfortunately, Geyserupt does get taken out by a Zen Headbutt, so I send in Reefer Coral. Thunderius stays frozen, as I go for yet another Blizzard, which does decent damage to Thunderius, but we miss the Forestar, which probably would have been a one-shot. Forestar goes for a Wood Hammer the next turn, which unfortunately takes out Reefer Coral from full health, so I send in Leviatops. I'm able to hit one more Blizzard, which leaves Thunderius on a sliver of health, and finally takes out the Forestar. His final new Pokemon is his own Leviatops, and he also fully heals Thunderius with a full restore. My Leviatops is able to outspeed his though, and one Dragon Claw brings it down to the tiniest amounts of health. He hits back with a Dragon Claw of his own, which unfortunately we can't survive, so I send in Swashbull. Buckhetter hits what I'm pretty sure is my final Blizzard, which once again does decent damage to Thunderius, and takes out the Leviatops. Now it's just 2 on 1, so I hit a decently powerful Sword Strike, as unfortunately Buckhetter gets taken out by a Thunder. I send in Sealazard though, and this thing's in pretty rough shape already, so a Liquidation followed up by a Sword Strike are all we need. Thunderius goes down and we beat Lance, and now we just have to deal with the champion Zwiggo. He starts off with a Dusharp as I lead with Geyserupt, and we outspeed and take it out in a single Surf. For some reason he decides to send in Chinobal next, so I go for another Surf as he goes for an Amnesia, but we still bring it down to red health. I go for Body Slam as I thought he was going to heal, but he actually swaps into Grastoise. Even so, Body Slam doesn't do that much damage, so I try and go for a Blizzard the next turn, but we just get destroyed by a Giga Drain, so I send in Buckhetter. He has the Earthquake, which is super effective, but we actually survive with over half our health remaining, and we can land a super effective Blizzard. We actually get another Freeze as well, but typically he does defrost the next turn anyway, and hit another Earthquake. We just survive though with 14 health left, and one more Blizzard's all we need to get the KO. Talamence is up next, so I swap into Reefer Coral, and go for the super effective Strength as he hits an Earthquake. We survive the hit with health to spare though, but to be honest, Strength really doesn't do that much. I thought we'd survive another Earthquake, but we don't, so I just send in Sealazard and go for the Liquidation. It brings it down to red health, and he hits back with a Brave Bird, and I thought he'd take himself out with the recoil, but he doesn't, and then fully heals the next turn. I get really lucky though as our Liquidation actually lowers his defense, which means that one more is actually enough to take it out. It definitely wouldn't have been without that defense drop. Chinobal comes back out again now, and of course fully heals with a full restore, so I go for the Aqua Jet for some decent damage, and then outspeed and KO with a Liquidation from there. Next up is Stalacola, but once again this thing is weak to fighting, so I swap into Swashbull, and he just goes for Calm Mind, so one super effective Sword Strike is all we need. We're now just down to his final Pokemon Eldraine, but this thing is a defensive beast. I decide to set up a Sword Stance in the hopes that I can survive an Outrage, which thankfully I do. Now I can just go for another Sword Strike, but even at +2 it only does about 50% of its health, and we go down to one more Outrage. I send in Leviatops as he heals up with a citrus berry, but he actually gets confused. I decide not to risk going for a Dragon Dance, so I go for a Dragon Claw instead, which was definitely the right option, as he doesn't hit himself in confusion, and takes us out with a single outrage. This is actually good news for me though, as he's now locked into that move. He definitely would have healed otherwise, so now I can just swap into Sea Lizard, and take it out with a Dragon Tail from there. Eldraine goes down and we beat Zwigger for the final time, and beat Pokémon ALTERED using only water types. I said it earlier in the video, but I think this team was definitely the best so far. Geyser Up's Drizzle just made this team completely overpowered sometimes, and yeah, overall it was an amazing team. My personal favourite members of the team have to be Leviatops and Swashbull. They're just both really hard hitting Pokemon, and Leviatops could even sweep thanks to Dragon Dance. Overall though, definitely the best team so far. I hope you guys enjoyed this mini-series as much as I enjoyed making it, as it really was a blast. If you want to see me take on more types, then let me know down below in the comments. If enough people are interested, I'm more than happy to keep this series going, and we could even do every single type. I just need to say thank you to all of you for the support over the last few videos, it really is much appreciated. If you enjoyed this video then please consider leaving a like, and comment down below with what challenge I should take on next. Remember, if I pick your idea, you'll get a shout out in the next video. I've got some great challenges coming up in the future which you won't want to miss, so I hope you'll stick around. As always, that's all I've got for you today, so thank you all so much for watching, until next time.